If you're a queer nerd or a queer nerd adjacent person who's in high school or college right now, or in that age range of like 14 to 24, you probably watched Steven Universe. I know I did. It was a huge part of queer geek culture at the time, with its incredible cast of characters.
First, let me introduce...
We are the Crystal Gems. Garnet.
Amethyst. Pearl. And Steven!
Beautiful art. Amazing music.
Deep down, I know that I'm just a human.
True,
but I know that I can draw my sword and fight.
And compelling story.
Don't you know anything, Steven? Your friends, they don't really care about other gems. All they care about is the Earth. But I never believed in this place.
It captivated an entire generation of queer youth, and rightfully so. For me, it was one of the first fandoms that I ever truly took part in. My first was Total Drama. I was a Blanely fan account.
Blanerific is my name. Dishing dirt is my game. Invading your TV with my Blanelicious frame.
But we don't talk about that. When I was in 7th grade, I downloaded an app called Cartoon Amino, and I met a bunch of other queer nerds who were navigating the complexities of growing up queer. And it was honestly an awesome experience. I found a community online, a place where I belonged, a place where I could explore my gender, my sexuality freely, without judgment. I could geek out about these characters without being seen as weird. I got into roleplay, drew fan art, and I really flourished because of it. I put so much time, energy, and passion into the show and its fandom, and I genuinely loved every second of it. But by the time the show ended, I couldn't stand what it had become. My feelings about it were complicated and messy. I hated the ending. I was angry, sad, and disappointed. I felt like all the love I'd put into the show was for nothing. And I stopped being a fan. But a pandemic later, I'm a different person. I have different opinions, different takes, and I'm far better at articulating and working out my thoughts and feelings. So I thought it might be time for me to revisit a show that's given me so much. To fall in love with it and perhaps fall out of love with it all over again. This is my Steven Universe retrospective, and if you want to hear an annoying internet girl overanalyze a kid's cartoon, stick around. I'd love to have you along for the ride. When Steven Universe first premiered, I don't think anyone really knew how big it was going to be. It seemed like a goofy kid's show about a little boy going on adventures and fighting monsters. And I already had Adventure Time. I saw the first few episodes when the show came out, but I didn't really get into it. And I was actually a part of the crowd that got into the show after a jailbreak. I remember it very vividly, actually. I was around 10 and I had just recently moved to a new town. And my mom, who's Korean, was having a dinner party with some of her friends who were also Korean. For the record, I don't speak Korean. I didn't know the other kids super well, but when I went over to them, they were watching Stronger Than You on repeat.
This is Garnet, back together. And I'm never going down at the hands of the likes of you because I'm so much better.
Well, they were watching one of the kids' phone recordings of their TV screen playing Stronger Than You on repeat. And I remember being mesmerized. It was magical. I was shy, but we quickly began talking and there was an instant connection. I was quite honestly shocked to find out that it was Steven Universe, but it definitely piqued my interest, and so I got into the show. And I became obsessed. I dove headfirst into the show and never looked back, finding my place in the Steven Universe fandom and loving it, and loving what the fandom represented. And I think I'd be bereft not to lead any conversation about Steven Universe with the fact that I was undeniably, unapologetically queer. And how special that was. Steven Universe had a cast of quite literally colorful queer characters, of all different shapes and sizes, personalities and gender expressions. There was such a range and breadth of queer womanhood that I really don't think any show since has been able to capture. And just in female characters in general. When female characters aren't tied to upholding heteronormativity, they get to be so much freer, more interesting, more compelling, and just like better characters. The way this show wrote women, and specifically queer women, was innovative, exciting, and clearly infectious. People were drawn to it to see queer brilliance portrayed in its full glory, and in a medium as beautiful as animation. And it fostered a dedicated queer following. When Jailbreak happened, there was a collective shock in the fandom, and it brought on many new fans getting into the show after the brilliance that was Jailbreak. And I totally understand why. It's an absolutely phenomenal episode, and Stronger Than You is a certified bop.
Go ahead and try, hit me if you're able. Can't you see that my relationship is stable? I can see you hate the way we intermingle, but I think you're just mad cause you're single.
I also think it's pretty safe to say that Garnet is the fan favorite character. She was before the twist, but I don't doubt that the reveal that she was a fusion boosted her popularity in the fandom, making her even more loved. She's a total badass, the leader of the Crystal Gems, and absolutely stunning to boot. But the thing I love most about her is how she redefines the concept of fusion. Fusion is not a new idea. It's actually a trope from shonen battle anime, the first use of it to my knowledge being from Dragon Ball Z, but obviously if I'm incorrect, please let me know in the comments down below. In Dragon Ball Z, fusion is more so just a power-up. Two characters fused together to get stronger, to beat up someone, you know, big dumb action scenes, Dragon Ball Z stuff. But Steven Universe takes this idea and does something entirely new with it. When two characters in Steven Universe fuse, the fusion becomes a representation of their relationship. Ruby and Sapphire are in a committed romantic relationship, and Garnet is the personification of their love.
Go ahead and try, hit me if you're able. Can't you see that my relationship is stable? I know you think I know something you're afraid of, cause you think that you've seen what I'm made of, but I am even more than the two of them. Everything they care about is what I am. I am their fury, I am their patience, I am the conversation.
I think a lot of people interpreted fusion as explicitly sexual because of Garnet, leading to some outrage about Greg and Steven fusing, but I think that's a bad faith reading of the situation. Fusion isn't sex, it's love. Whether it's romantic love, sexual love, platonic love.
That's why we're the best.
What a beautiful day!
Or familial love.
It's a big old universe out there. And when you're getting crushed under the weight of them stars... Well, sometimes you need that special someone to remind you that you're so much more.
What? It's a fascinating way to explore character relationships and takes the idea of fusion to a much more interesting level. It's not just a power-up, it's a physical representation of the connection between two characters. And I think that's beautiful. It allows them to tell stories about these relationships in ways that other shows just can't. Stories that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do without ruining characters. I think it's an absolutely fascinating plot device, and the stories told with it are even more fascinating. One of my favorite episodes exploring the concept of fusion is Season 1, Episode 37, Alone Together. This episode begins with the Crystal Gems trying to teach Steven how to fuse, to no avail. Later, he vents about this to Connie, who tries to comfort him, mentioning that she could never even dance.
I think it's amazing you were able to dance with them at all. I could never do that.
Huh? What do you mean?
I've never danced in front of anyone before.
Really?
Yeah, there was a dance at my school and I was really excited about it, but I just couldn't bring myself to go. I just couldn't stop thinking about everyone staring at me.
Come dance with me.
Not even a lie, that's really fucking cute. And as they dance,
Whoa!
Whoa.
they find themselves fused. They find themselves Stevani. The gems have known each other for thousands of years, and as such, can fuse quite easily. They've built up those close personal relationships that allow them to fuse at will. But Steven has never fused. However, in that moment, he and Connie felt so close that it happened. Their love for each other, their connection, took form in Stevani. Upon showing the gems, they're shocked, but Garnet offers Stevani these words.
Listen to me. You are not two people, and you are not one person. You are an experience. Make sure you're a good experience. Now, go have fun!
And they do. They head out to one of Sour Cream's raves, and they dance. They enjoy themselves. But then Kevin approaches them.
Hey, baby.
I think this is a really interesting way to explore objectification, specifically the objectification that teenage girls and femmes go through. Stevani is non-binary. They use they-them pronouns. They've been confirmed to be non-binary. However, they do present very femme, and when Kevin creeps on them, he refers to them with feminine terms.
Okay, bring it back, girl.
Teenage girls and femmes are extremely sexualized by society, by the media, and telling a story about a teenage femme being creeped on, to me, might not work because the entire movie and TV industry creeps on teen femmes. But Steven and Connie are very clearly children. We've gotten to know them as children. We see them as kids. And when they're suddenly creeped on, we feel the disgust that we should. And we understand that they're still children in a way that people often don't when they see teenage characters in the media. Taking the form of Stevani is a really interesting way for the show to explore how teens are objectified by older people. And they can only do this through fusion. I also think the fact that Stevani is non-binary is important here, because often when straight men creep on AFAB non-binary people, it's almost like they're looking through them to a woman that doesn't exist, and Kevin's misgendering approach to creeping on them is noteworthy. Eventually, the pressure causes Steven and Connie to defuse.
That's two kids. I'm out.
We're back.
But despite what's happened, the experience of being Stevani has brought Steven and Connie closer. That's just one of many examples of how fusion is explored in the show. Some of my other favorite episodes about fusion besides Alone Together are Giant Woman, Keeping It Together, We Need to Talk, and Alone at Sea, all using the idea of fusion in unique and compelling ways. However, sometimes fusion has been used in more problematic ways. I want to preface this part by stating that I am not Black, and I would love to hear the opinions of Black viewers in the comment section. I've also linked an article in the description below titled How Steven Universe Failed Its Black Fan Base that goes much more in depth in racism in the show than I will be going into in this video. I will be discussing the episodes Coach Steven and Bismuth. And while I'm sure all of you know the controversies surrounding both episodes, I feel like it would be ingenuine for me not to speak about both episodes. But if you are uncomfortable with these topics, or if you just don't care to hear a rehash of something you've heard before, the timestamps are in the description below. Feel free to skip to the next part. With that all out of the way, let's begin. In the episode Coach Steven, Sugilite, the fusion of amethyst and garnet, is first introduced, and it's here where we see some sinister racial connotations start to take shape. Garnet and amethyst are both racially coded to be Black characters. Racial coding is when a character is written or designed in a certain way to allude to them being a particular race, despite them not being canonically that race. So in this situation, even though Garnet is technically an alien, with her features, her voice, and the way that she's written, she is a Black woman. Similarly, though it's less clear with Amethyst, Amethyst is coded to be either Black or brown with her design elements and the way she's written. With Pearl's features and her skin being quite literally white, I do view her as a white character, though I've heard some say that they view her as an Asian character, which is something I do see merit in, and I get why Asian viewers could view her that way. But for the purpose of this discussion, Garnet is Black, Amethyst is Black, Pearl is white or Asian. Whether Pearl is white or Asian, there are still unfortunate racial implications. Sugilite is the fusion of two Black women and is drawn like this. Yeah. She's written as brash, abrasive, and aggressive. A wild and reckless Black woman who doesn't know how to control her own strength and rage. You're beginning to see the issue, right? The issue is taken even further by the fact that Sugilite, as a character, is an obstacle for Pearl to overcome. Pearl feels weak compared to this big Black woman, and the big emotional moment of the episode relies on Pearl subduing and separating her. It's a certified yikes moment. But this issue is only emphasized by the way that the other fusions are portrayed. When Pearl fuses with Amethyst to form Opal, or Garnet to form Sardonyx, these mixed-race characters are portrayed as elegant, dainty, perfect. They're given soft-sounding music, treated in favorable ways. Steven actually tells Sardonyx to her face that she's articulate.
Wow, you're so articulated.
Come on, microaggression. The idea that these mixed-race fusions are good, but the fusion of two Black women is dangerous, is racist. The message it sends out is racist, and there's no way to dance around it. Then there's Bismuth. Bismuth follows the story of Steven accidentally unbubbling a gem in Lion's Mane, which is revealed to be bismuth, a crystal gem thought to be lost or shattered long ago during the Gem War. They reassimilate her into the crystal gem once more, but there's an underlying tension, and this erupts at the end of the episode when she reveals the breaking point to Steven.
Why don't you give it a test run? This one's got your name on it. Wait, let me get out of your way. Whoop.
Bismuth, I can't use this.
The breaking point is a weapon made to shatter gems, and Bismuth plans to use it on the diamonds and homeworld gems. Steven gets into an argument and then a full-blown fight with Bismuth over the morality of shattering gems, leading to Steven poofing her and bubbling her away yet again. So, what's the issue here? I'll admit that when I first saw Bismuth, I thought it was amazing. The greatest episode of the show, even, but since its premiere, I've rewatched it, and I do see a lot of major flaws in the episode, especially regarding the racial connotations. So, Bismuth is another Black-coded character, and some of the ways she's portrayed in the episodes are pretty questionable. When she's sparring with the other gems, her shows of force are shown as too violent, and make Steven visibly uncomfortable.
We are the Crystal Gems!
Despite the fact that every other character has been shown fighting, including in training, though it's usually led by Pearl. Now, suddenly, when a Black woman is leading combat exercises, it's a problem. And then there's the ending scene, where after arguing about whether or not it was okay to shatter homeworld gems, Steven poofs Bismuth. So, yes, I do agree that shattering gems is wrong. Murder is wrong, hands down. But it's noteworthy that Bismuth was treated as irredeemable and needing to be pooped away in that episode, whereas Peridot and Lapis, characters who wanted to do or did worse stuff and happened not to be black-coded, were sympathetic and were given second chances very quickly. I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to cancel Steven Universe. Even if I wanted to, I don't have the power to do that. The show is already over. And I don't want to do that. I have a lot of love for the show, and all of my criticism is coming from a place of having loved the show and wishing it was better. But I do think it's important to be critical of the way certain media can send out certain messages about race. And I think it's important to call questionable things out when they're done. And I think we can all only benefit from being more aware of how race influences the media we watch. I'm not calling anyone on the Steven Universe team racist. All I'm saying is that, maybe these 2 episodes were not the move. While some of the ways certain characters are treated by the writers can be less than ideal at times, I do think that its characters are one of the strengths of the show. I've already discussed Garnet, but I'd like to spotlight the other 2 members of the Crystal Gems. Out of all of the gems, Pearl was perhaps the closest to Steven's mother, Rose Quartz.
Rose kept many things secret, even from us.
But not from me! I was the one she told everything!
Yo, you're not the only one who misses her.
You can't understand how I feel! None of you had what we had!
Her second in command, Pearl was devoted to her, not just in loyalty to the cause, but in personal devotion. Pearl was in love with Rose Quartz, though her feelings were never reciprocated.
I was fine when you came, and we fought like it was all some silly game over her, who she'd choose. After all those years, I never thought I'd lose.
In the episode Back to the Barn, it's revealed that on Homeworld, pearls were essentially made to be slaves.
Yeah, she's gotta stay and help build the drill thing, right?
No, you're confused. A pearl can't build a thing like this.
Why not?
Because pearls aren't for this. They're for standing around and looking nice and holding your stuff for you, right?
That's enough! If we're going to work together, you're going to have to listen to me.
Listen to you? Did you teach her to talk like this?
What are you talking about?
She's a pearl. She's a made-to-order servant, just like the hundreds of other pearls being flaunted around back on Homeworld.
Wait, there's hundreds of pearls?
Well, yes, but...
And she looks like a fancy one, too.
Hundreds of pearls.
So, who do you belong to anyway?
Nobody!
Then what are you for?
They exist to serve the every whim of high-class gems, living lives of servitude. However, Pearl was different. She became a renegade pearl, belonging to no one. Her own gem, fighting for her freedom and the freedom of other gems during the Gem War. However, to this day, she still struggles with her self-worth.
No matter how hard I try to be strong like you, I'm just a pearl. I'm useless on my own. I need someone to tell me what to do.
There's still that voice inside of her, saying she's just a pearl. That she's not capable, that she's not good enough. Rose was the first person to tell her that she could be more than she was made to be. Rose showed her her true potential, and now that she's gone, Pearl doesn't know how to be.
Who am I now in this world without her? Petty and dull with the nerve to doubt her.
She doesn't have Rose there, and her insecurities only grow. She hasn't properly grieved, and seeing Steven, despite the fact that she loves him, is a constant reminder of losing Rose.
What does it matter? It's already done. Now I've got to be there for her son.
She harbors resentment towards Greg for taking Rose away from her. She idolizes Garnet to an unhealthy degree. She patronizes Amethyst because she needs to feel better than someone. She's hurt, and she's messed up, and she doesn't know how to act. But also, she loves Steven, and she loves the other gems. And even if she's not the healthiest person, her heart is in the right place, and she's trying to be better. Amethyst is the comic relief on the team. While Garnet and Pearl act as mother figures to Steven, Amethyst is more of a cool older sister. She was mostly comic relief and cool fight moves until the episode On the Run. In this episode, Steven and Amethyst head out and explore, inspired by Steven's favorite book series, The No Home Boys. When Steven tells Amethyst he wants to head home, this happens.
Amethyst, I want to go home now. Amethyst? I'm done pretending to be a no-homeboy.
Not me.
I'm sure Garnet and Pearl are worried sick about us, wondering when we're coming home.
That's not my home.
But, oh, that's right, you're from Homeworld.
That's not my home either!
Then where are you from?
I'll show you.
They head to the kindergarten. She reveals that unlike Pearl and Garnet, who were made on Homeworld, she was made on Earth. When Pearl arrives to take Amethyst and Steven home, she scolds Amethyst for bringing Steven there, and they have this interaction.
Pearl? Was Amethyst really made here?
How much did you tell him?
What? You mean about the bad thing? How this bad place is where bad gems came to grow more bad gems? Is that what you're talking about?
They grew other gems here?
Amethyst, he's not ready.
Oh, but don't worry, Steven. Everything's just fine now.
Amethyst?
It all worked out. We won.
Stop.
And we shut this place down so the
Stop.
Earth would be safe from parasites like me.
Amethyst, that's enough.
Pearl?
Steven, I'm sorry. I never wanted you to see this horrible place.
Then why don't you just leave? I never asked for it to be this way. I never asked to be made.
Amethyst.
Amethyst was made in a kindergarten. Sites that would create gems by eating away at Earth's resources, rendering the land uninhabitable and stealing life from the planet. The kindergartens were one of the things that the crystal gems were so against, not wanting to destroy the precious world that is Earth. Amethyst is insecure about the fact that she was made on Earth, thinking Pearl and Garnet view her as a mistake.
Amethyst? Amethyst, I had no idea you've been upset about this.
What? You had no idea? Oh, this is like my entire existence. You want to pretend that none of this ever happened. You think I'm just a big mistake.
No, Amethyst. You're not the mistake. You're just the byproduct of a big mistake. No, that's not... I just never thought of this as you. None of this is your fault. You didn't build this place. I'm sorry, Amethyst. I hope you can forgive me. You're the one good thing that came out of this mess. I always thought you were proud of that.
In the episode Too Far, it's revealed that Amethyst was made wrong. That Amethysts were meant to be quartz soldiers, that they were supposed to be big and muscular.
What was I supposed to look like?
Well, you're a quartz. They're huge, loyal soldiers. You should be twice your size. Broad-shouldered, intimidating, but you simply stayed in the ground too long.
Are you saying I'm wrong?
Genetically speaking, yes.
And Amethyst's insecurity comes from the fact that she feels wrong. But over the course of the series, she learns to love herself and becomes a happier person as a result. Then there's Lapis Lazuli and Peridot, two gems who are introduced near the midway point in Season 1. Lapis, trapped in a mirror, wanting to head back to Homeworld, only to find that it's so much worse than she remembers. And Peridot, a Homeworld gem sent to Earth to check the progress on the cluster, a bioweapon that, once complete, would destroy the planet when emerging, currently baking in the planet's core. However, over the course of the series, both gems find safety and companionship with the crystal gems, joining their ranks.
Lapis, Peridot, stay here. You'll have to protect Beach City if something happens while we're gone.
You can count on us.
Peridot, like Garnet, is another fan favorite character, and rightfully so. She has a great redemption arc, and we as the viewer watch her go from a villain, indoctrinated into Homeworld's imperialist ideology, to a full-fledged crystal gem, finding her place on Earth and being willing to fight for it.
Okay then. The truth is, I think that we should stay, and if the time comes, if the diamonds do come to wipe this planet off the star maps, I think we should fight for this life we built instead of tearing it up out of the ground. I think we can win. I think you can win. Earth is our home now. Isn't it worth fighting for?
And not to mention, she's just a joy to watch.
Ah,
You don't know about rain?
I don't know anything without my screen.
It's okay. Here, pretend this soup is the ocean. When the sun warms it up, the water evaporates into clouds, like the steam. And when the clouds get really heavy, it rains.
So scalding liquid pours down from the sky?
No, it's just water. It can't hurt you. Here, why don't I just show you?
Steven, wait!
Come on! Look, I'm okay. It's just water. This is just something that happens on Earth. Isn't it cool? Whoa! Wah! Yeah! Yeah, you did it! What do you think? Isn't it cool?
Cool.
Stan Peridot. Lapis, on the other hand, is not a fan favorite. In fact, she's quite the controversial character. Many people view her as abusive, and while I'm not going to discount that opinion and everyone is open to their own take on her character, I do want to give my take on her. After being trapped in a mirror for thousands of years, she goes back to Homeworld only to be held captive again by Peridot and Jasper as they take her back to Earth, wanting to hurt Steven, someone she cares about.
What is that?
It calls itself the Steven.
He's just a human. He isn't a threat at all. He's not one of them.
To protect Steven and the Earth, she fuses with Jasper and, briefly in control of the fusion, traps the two of them together at the bottom of the ocean.
What are you doing?
I'm done being everyone's prisoner. Now you're my prisoner, and I'm never letting you
Lapis!
Let's stay on this miserable planet together!
In the fusion that is Malachite, Lapis and Jasper are constantly fighting for control, never giving Lapis a moment to breathe, to rest. A constant battle. But eventually, after months of being trapped in Malachite with Jasper, the Crystal Gems rescue her, and she's able to be free. The things that this gem has gone through are unimaginable, and none of us can understand what that's like. So, when Lapis is freed finally, and decides she wants to stay on Earth where she's away from Homeworld, the gems allow her to stay at the barn where Peridot is living, and Lapis says that it isn't going to work, furious at Peridot for holding her captive, and Peridot isn't exactly saying anything that would make Lapis want to forgive her.
You used me like everyone else did. But it's not like that anymore. It's different now. I'm different.
It's true, Lapis. Peridot has really come into her own since she's been living on Earth.
I sabotaged my own mission. I helped save the Earth. I even yelled at Yellow Diamond. She's probably sending a whole fleet to find me and shatter me right now. I'm kind of a big deal. A big anti-Homeworld deal.
Steven, I don't think this is gonna work.
Maybe we could put up a curtain?
Even when she apologizes, it's not great.
Steven did the outside, and I did the inside.
Sorry I interrogated you. You were just full of such useful information. That's a sincere compliment. Peridot.
Peridot spends this entire episode trying to gain Lapis's forgiveness, culminating in Lapis destroying Peridot's tape recorder, a very heartfelt gift that meant a lot to Peridot.
Ta-da! See, the ribbon is even blue. I got
your number? Here, I'll unwrap it for you. When I was stuck here, Steven gave me this tape recorder as a gift, and I didn't really get it at first, but it made me feel better. Just to talk about all the weird stuff that was happening. It'll help you too. You, press the button to record, and then you talk into it.
I don't want your garbage.
Obviously, as a Peridot fan, it sucks to see her so rudely dismissed by Lapis, especially when we've spent the past season falling in love with her. But I don't think it would have made sense for Lapis to react any other way. Yes, we know Peridot has changed, but Lapis doesn't. Lapis wasn't there for that, and when she thinks of Peridot, she thinks of her captor. Can you blame her if she's rude to her? And by the end of the episode, we see her taking the first steps in forgiving Peridot.
Peridot. Are you okay?
Which, in my opinion, is the most anyone can expect from her. The other episode people cite when saying that Lapis is a bad person is Alone at Sea. In this episode, Steven and Greg take Lapis out on a boat trip, where Jasper boards the boat, begging Lapis to take her back.
Steven!
Let's be Malachite again.
Why would you want that?
I was wrong about fusion. You made me understand. Malachite was bigger and stronger than both of us. We could fly.
Lapis, don't listen to her!
Stay out of this.
I was terrible to you. I liked taking everything out on you. I needed to. I hated you. It was bad.
It'll be better this time. I've changed. You've changed me. I'm the only one who can handle your kind of power. Together, we'll be unstoppable.
No!
What?
What we had wasn't healthy. I never want to feel like I felt with you. Never again. So just go.
People have interpreted this as Lapis abusing Jasper, but I think that's a bad faith reading of the situation. Jasper and Lapis were fused, constantly battling for control, because if Jasper got control, she would hurt someone Lapis cared about. They were both abusive to each other, both constantly fighting, both battling. It's not a clear-cut victim-abuser situation. It's an awful relationship that both gems were in that they needed to step away from. They were both abusers, but they were also both victims. The difference is Lapis is seeking help. Jasper is going further into her abusive ways. And it's not like Lapis is acting like a victim. She takes accountability in that episode.
It's my fault. I'm the one to blame.
That's not true.
I'm really trying to enjoy it out here, but I can't stop thinking about being fused as Malachite. How I used all my strength to hold her down in the ocean. How I was always battling against Jasper to keep her bound to me.
But it's not like that anymore. You don't have to be with Jasper.
That's not it. I miss her.
What?
We were fused for so long.
But she's terrible.
I'm terrible. I did horrible things. I broke your dad's leg. I stole Earth's ocean. Go on. Tell me I'm wrong.
She clearly feels awful about the things she's done. But she's working to be a better person, even if she doesn't completely understand how to have healthy relationships. And that's why I love Lapis and Peridot's relationship so much. They're both people who have done bad things, but they're working to be better, with each other, for each other, and they make each other better. They're also, fucking adorable together.
We can try it together.
Yeah.
My OTP, I'm obsessed with them. When I was in 9th grade, I may or may not have followed a semi-smutty Lapidot fan artist on Tumblr. The art was very good, okay? Leave me alone.
If I could begin to be half of what you think of me, I could do about anything. I could even learn how to love